renovations can be quite the undertaking. They require a lot of time, money, and labor. Most of the time we settle for hiring contractors and builders to complete our projects. After all, not just anyone can tackle a massive project without knowing the ins and outs of it. When we think about renovations, we usually picture large-scale construction projects, the installation of a wooden floor, building a new porch, or upgrading an entire kitchen. But some projects can be smaller and still have a big impact, while being both unique and cost-effective. One woman hoped to renovate her cramped chicken coop, but she didn't quite have the money to buy a brand new one herself. She assumed that she was out of viable options and was ready to give up on her dream, until she saw something that gave her a brilliant idea. She'd been hanging up laundry in her backyard when her eyes landed on her kids' old playschool playhouse in the corner of the yard. The children had outgrown it, and the structure was just sitting there collecting leaves and moss. The woman thought about how it was such a waste to let it sit on her property unused when she had a brilliant idea. Maybe she could repurpose it to help with her chicken coop dilemma. Surely there was something that could be done. Since it had been years since her kids had used the playhouse, they didn't mind at all when she dragged it out into the driveway and cleaned it off. How exactly would she put the house to use? She had to find a way to incorporate it into her existing coop, pictured here. The woman quickly got to work. She created a platform with a ramp for the floor of the playhouse, while her husband helped her build a nest box that could be opened from the outside. The box fit perfectly inside the front window of the playhouse. This would allow for nesting chickens to have their own private space while sitting on their eggs. Then the woman and her husband simply hoisted the play schoolhouse on top of the platform and positioned the ramp in such a way that it connected the bottom coop area to the playhouse. Now the chickens could have some privacy while they laid their eggs. This woman wasn't the only person who found a way to repurpose an old structure. One man had always envisioned a full bar in his home, but he didn't think he could afford the project. But where there's a will, there's a way, as they say. The man owned an unfurnished shed which had been built by his home's previous owner, and it was useless for anything more than storing lawnmower equipment. So the man decided to transform it into his dream bar. After completing the electric installation himself, he put up some new drywall. Next came a fresh coat of paint. Not only was sage green a charming color, but it allowed for flexibility in case future homeowners wanted to use the shed for something else. Once the paint was dry, it was time for him to lay the floor. Rather than spending a ton of money on real hardwood, he installed a durable vinyl sheet that had the same appearance as the real thing. The man's next task was to begin the construction of the bar itself. He started by building the frame, before he decided on a standard L shape, which he was able to create in no time. But he had a long way to go before he could serve some cold ones to his friends. Once the bar's frame was complete, the man attached long, flat pieces of plywood to ensure the frame was sturdy. This bar would need to support the weight of anyone leaning on it, plus whatever beverages he was serving. He then stained all the wood black to give the entire thing a sleek and modern look. He knew he wanted his end product to look as professionally done as possible, and this black stain would do just the trick. The man then had a very unique idea of how he was going to decorate the bar, and it involved lots of money. That's to say, it involved pennies, 5,500 of them in all. But how did he intend to use $55 worth of pennies? He used them to cover the bar top, of course. First, the man needed to clean off all the gunk and grime that accumulated on the coins over time. He soaked them in a solution made of white vinegar and salt. The pennies were then laid out to dry, and some of them developed a beautiful green oxidation. He carefully sorted them by color and shade and then rearranged them in an intricate pattern on the bar top. He made sure to glue down each one so it was secure. He didn't want any pennies falling out of place. Once the pennies were glued down, he poured a thick layer of clear resin over the top to help the pennies set. Once the resin fully dried, it made the bar top appear to have a smooth glass encasing. This DIY project was nearly complete. Last but not least came the most important part of his homemade bar, the alcohol. The man shoehorned a kegerator underneath the bar top and even added a few tap handles to give his guests a nice variety of brews to choose from. The man's homemade bar was finally complete. Now he had a cool place where guests could hang out and sling back a few beers, and it didn't cost him nearly as much as it would have had he hired a crew. Just like the woman with the chicken coop, this DIY project was a great way to repurpose an existing structure. Cheers to that. What creative additions to these homes? It just shows what you can accomplish with a little patience, ingenuity, and elbow grease.